Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into something you might not expect, a hidden crisis that affects the very people we look up to as the most successful. We're talking about executive loneliness. So, let's set the scene. Picture this. A leader, Nick Jonsson, up on stage at a huge conference. The source material describes him in a bright pink suit. I mean, talk about confidence, right? This is a guy who looks like he's totally in control, at the absolute top of his game. He seems completely untouchable. But what if that's all just on the surface? What if behind that super confident mask, the reality is, well, completely different? That's the thing. That strong exterior can hide a really deep internal struggle. And that's exactly what we're digging into today, this idea of executive loneliness. All right, so let's start by peeling back that mask, shall we? We're going to look at this dangerous gap between how we see these leaders and what they're actually going through. You know, a lot of leaders are dealing with something psychologists call smiling depression, and it's exactly what it sounds like. There's this massive pressure to always be on, always be strong, to have all the answers. So they work incredibly hard to hide any pain they're feeling. On the outside, they look totally fine, successful, happy, but inside, it's a different story. And that can work, right up until the moment it doesn't.
And this isn't just a one-off thing. The scale of this problem is, wow, it's pretty staggering. Get this, a survey of top executives in Singapore showed that the rates of depression almost doubled during the pandemic. We're talking from 30% to nearly 60%. So this isn't just a few people struggling, it's a full-blown epidemic.
Okay, so that's the big picture. Now let's bring it back to the personal level. How does this pressure actually build into a full-blown crisis? We're going to follow Nick Jonsson's story, which is a really powerful example of this kind of downward spiral.
And you can see the whole chain of events laid out here. It starts with one setback, then another. He loses a job, then he gets a big promotion and moves for it, only to be fired just 2 months later. Oof. You can imagine how that would create this vicious cycle of insecurity. It got so bad, he was so terrified of being fired again that he actually resigned from a perfectly good job, basically to fire himself before they could. That's how deep the fear went.
So all that chaos at work, it didn't stay at work. It triggered a really deep personal spiral. He talks about feeling completely and utterly alone, cut off from his family, and just trapped in this really destructive cycle of drinking too much, not sleeping, just trying to cope with all that pressure. But here's the thing. Even when you hit rock bottom, there can be a turning point. And in this story, it all comes down to one single, critical, and incredibly difficult decision.
And this right here, this shows just how different the outcomes can be. It's really a tale of two friends. When the pain just got to be too much, Nick made the choice to speak up. His friend, Simon, was going through something really similar, but he didn't talk to anyone. He suffered in silence, and the outcome was tragic. When you boil it down, the difference between life and death was that one act, the willingness to ask for help.
And that just brings home a really painful truth, doesn't it? People aren't mind readers. No one can help you if they don't even know you're struggling. That mask of success we talked about, it can be so effective that the people who love you most might have absolutely no idea that you're drowning right in front of them. Okay, so this brings us to the solution. The good news, there is a way out. It's a framework for recovery. And it all starts the moment you make that decision to ask for help and begin rebuilding not from the outside, but from the inside out. And we can actually break this path down into 3 main steps. It's pretty straightforward, really. First, you've got to shift your mindset. Second, you rebuild your health, both physical and mental. And third, you start to reconnect with the world and the people around you. All right, step 1, shifting your mindset. This all starts with what the source calls rigorous honesty. And that's not just some buzzword, okay? It means really dropping the act and being brutally honest with yourself about where you're at. A great tool for this? Journaling. It helps you catch those little lies we tell ourselves. The whole idea is to start seeing vulnerability not as a weakness, but as a practice, like a muscle you have to build. And the key thing to remember is you're not aiming for perfection. The goal is just progress, one step at a time. Okay, step 2, rebuilding your health. This is all about getting back to basics, the stuff we all know we should do but totally let slide when we're under pressure. You got to rebuild your foundation, right? So that means nutrition. You really are what you eat. It means making sleep a non-negotiable. And then there's exercise, which the source calls the real happy pill, for good reason. Its impact on your mood is just huge. For Nick, he went big. He set this massive goal, completing an Ironman triathlon, and that became this incredible anchor for his entire recovery. And that brings us to the final piece of the puzzle, reconnecting with the world. And listen, this doesn't have to be some huge grand gesture. A lot of the time, it's about the small things, about meeting people where they are. Take Nick's story with his son.
He learned how to play Minecraft just so he could enter his son's world and connect with him on his terms. And it worked. They started rebuilding their relationship one block at a time.
So, all of this leads to a final and maybe pretty counterintuitive idea. What if real strength, especially for a leader, isn't about hiding your weaknesses? What if it's about sharing them?
Think about it. If your leader acts like a perfect, unfeeling robot, well, the whole team is going to act that way too. But when a leader actually shows that they're human, with flaws and struggles, it gives everyone else permission to be human too. It creates what experts call psychological safety. Basically, an environment where it's okay to admit you messed up or to take a risk. And that kind of personal connection, it builds a deep level of trust. People will go the extra mile not because they have to for a boss, but because they want to for a person they respect.
So what this all boils down to is that we've got to redefine what we think of as strength. It's not about being invincible or never having a bad day. Real strength, that's the courage to be honest when you're struggling. It's the courage to connect with other people. And yeah, it's the courage to ask for help, which, let's be real, we all need at some point.
And so, this whole explainer leaves us with a challenge. The big takeaway is that you're not as alone as you think you are. Your mind can play tricks on you and make you feel isolated. So the real question isn't about them. It's about you. Who can you be vulnerable with today? Because finding the answer to that one question, well, it could change absolutely everything.